Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Veronica and this is Life Chat with Veronica. In today's video, we are going to be talking about something really interesting, and I know that you would have seen it from the title and from the thumbnail. So yes, we're going to be talking about our NHS experience. So if you are interested in knowing more about this is the time to tune in, relax, settle down, and be ready to learn from us. Do not forget, if you have not subscribed, this is the best time to subscribe. It is free, so just click on the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so that you'll be notified whenever I put up a video such as this. Don't forget, my channel is all about self-development, finance, and my lifestyle in general. So be sure to share my videos, comment, like, and subscribe. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up as well. So guys, let's proceed into today's video. As you can see, there's someone seated beside me. It's not just me today. So everyone, welcome, Glory.
Hi.
If you have been watching all of my videos, I'm sure that you would have seen this face before. She has joined me when we talked about our culture shock, and she has joined me as well when we had a conversation with Moses and Glory. So this is the same Glory, and we talked about our master's experience in the UK. So if you've not watched all of those videos, please go back and watch. I can tag them up here so that you can easily find them. So don't forget as well to share with your friends. Today we're going to be having a different kind of video. We're going to be sharing with you our NHS experience. In the past couple of months and days and weeks, some people have come asking about interview process, the application process. We thought that we could rub minds together and share our experience with you so that you can pick as many lessons as you can pick. But from this conversation, if there are any questions that stems out of it, just be sure to drop them in the comment section and we will respond to you. So let's get into today's video. Glory, welcome to my channel. How do you feel to be here?
Thank you for having me.
I am actually glad to have you here because our conversation is usually really interesting. Right, like anytime I rewatch that video we had with Moses, and sometimes I usually wish that Moses was actually here or close to us so that we can always recreate
Moses,
like
shout
out. Shout out to you, Moses. So yeah, I was watching the video. So anytime I watch that video, I usually laugh. It's very, very funny. So yeah, it's glad to have you back, and I have some questions here just to like guide us in our conversation today so that we can answer people's questions that they have about joining the NHS. So just to give a background, we both have worked in the NHS at one time or another during our career in the UK. So we thought that would be like an interesting conversation for you, especially for those looking forward to go into the NHS. Oh, so the first question I have actually will be about our background. One reason why I want us to talk about our background is because I have met someone that was surprised that a finance person can work in the NHS. Most people just assume that because the NHS is like, if you don't know the meaning of NHS, is National Health Service. So most people just think that it's the people from the medical field, healthcare, nurses, and those in the medical line in general that can work in the NHS. So that's why I'm going to be giving you like a background. We are both in the finance background, but I'll give you a more diverse explanation to what our background is. So Glory, can you tell us what's your background in or your discipline?
Well, okay, so I have a BSc in accounting and then I have a master's degree in finance.
Great.
So yeah, that's my background.
Great. And that's interesting because that's what I have as well. So my background is also in accounting and I have a master's degree in finance as well from Ife-Olaitan University. And then I currently work in the NHS as a costing and pricing accountant. Should I answer that first? Or?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so for me, I have been trying to get into the NHS because I actually have people that are there. So they've already hinted me about how beneficial the experiences are. All in all, I started applying way before I graduated. So just to put a time to it, to be probably during my project time. I'm quite sure that it would be before then, but let me just say that was when I really got very serious.
That would be like 3 months.
Yes, before graduation. And let's just say graduation was in December last year, and just backdate it about 3 to 4 months before that. That's when I really got serious. I'm sure I started applying before that, but honestly, it wasn't working out. There was a time that I went really far for an interview and I didn't get a lot of rejections. Honestly, I'm not quite sure what I was doing wrong, but I'm sure that in the course of this conversation, you might be able to figure it out because I will share what I think I did right in the interview or application that I eventually got. So I have been applying from there and nothing worked. So I had to, after graduation, start somewhere else. And then after that, I continued. So it was about consistency and it was about getting better in the application process and in the interview process, which we will get to. So I eventually got into the NHS sometime this year around May. I actually did the interview that got me into NHS in February, and then all of the processing and all, and I resumed in May. That was how I got into the NHS. How I got in was by applying and then going through the interview, and then yeah, we're going to touch all of that individually. But that's the story. So Glory, over to you.
Okay, so for me, it's an entirely different story to hers.
Share with us.
Because hers is a story of consistency, not giving up, perseverance, and all. But for me, there was not a time where I was particularly applying to the NHS because I didn't really know that I could work with the NHS as a finance specialist.
Yeah, that's why I actually had to clear that, because I've met someone like that before. So you can, if you have a finance degree, and even more, the project managers, anything. As long as the NHS is wide,
just like an organization, like any other organization.
So every role is needed there. Okay? Yeah, just to put that out.
So there was never a time where I was particularly applying to the NHS, or there was a time I was just randomly looking for jobs. I mean, I saw somebody talk about how one of the places where you can find jobs is Indeed, and I actually found my job on Indeed. So I was just on Indeed and I saw this application, finance role, NHS Scotland. I'm just like, okay. And I just applied. I just sat down with the application. I put in the application. I was doing a job then. My job was a contract role that was going to end very soon. So I was like, okay, I'm applying for jobs. So I just looked at the requirements for the job, and I felt like, I think it's something I know about. And then I decided to apply, and I totally forgot that I had any application out there.
Wow.
All of a sudden, after my contract was over and all that, I just suddenly saw an invite for an interview.
Wow.
I didn't even take it serious because at that time I had a number of rejections. Like, it was a time where I was having back-to-back rejections. So I was like, okay, this is another one. They're probably rejecting me again. Because I first felt like, why did I apply for this job again? Like, because when you are really, really searching for jobs, how you'll be applying for jobs, and it will come a time where you can't even keep track of your applications anymore. So I was at that period, and I was just like, okay, maybe this is one of those jobs. I looked at it. I wanted to prepare. I was not motivated. I was not motivated. But as the day for the interview was drawing closer, I was like, okay, right, let me just put in my best to it. It's like, never say never.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'm going to prepare for this interview, and I prepared. And I tried not to keep my hopes high because, like I said, I had a number of rejections before then. So I was like, okay, let me not be let me not keep my hopes high so that I will not dash it totally. So I went in for the interview. They said there was going to be an Excel test. Whoa. At first, I was like, okay, an Excel test. I've not done this kind of thing before. I'm like, it can't be that bad, right?
You have the experience.
Exactly.
You've used Excel.
Exactly. So I'm like, okay. I was like a little bit under tension, but like, okay, let me just do this. So I went. I did the test. I was not sure what to expect. And I didn't have anybody around me working in the NHS in that capacity. So I could not even ask questions that what should I expect? I didn't have anybody to ask questions. But I just decided to put in my best. So I prepared, I read, and I went into the interview with hopes that were not so high, but with enough preparation. So yes, that was what I did. I wrote the Excel test. I had the interview. I was really anxious. I was nervous during the interview, but maybe that's a story I'll go into later. And surprisingly, I was called and I got the job. Woo! So I'm like, okay, I got the job with NHS. Like, I went back, I'm like, this is NHS. Like, so people ask me, oh, how did you do it? I'm like, I don't know how I did it. I just got into it. I don't know how I applied. It just happened. Amazing. So everyone's journey, everyone's story
is different.
Yes,
different. And I believe that you'll be able to pick that from most of the stories and the conversation we'll be having here today. That's really amazing, Glory. You talked about you just, touching the application and, going for the interview, but we're going to go in depth into that now. For me, like I said, when I got the NHS job, I was not, what word can I use to qualify the feeling? It was kind of like overwhelming. I was so glad that I did, because it's been a lot of application to the NHS. In fact, when I was talking to someone and the person was asking me, how did you do it? I was like, honestly, it's been a long time coming, because I have put in, if I can remember, at that time, I've done over 200 applications for the NHS alone, not even looking at the other ones. So it was kind of a breakthrough for me. So for the application, for the particular one that I've gotten, and let me just put it out here before I narrow it down to the one I got. Different NHS applications and interviews have different approach to them. There are some NHS interviews that I've gone for and it's just straight questions, or it doesn't even have to be value-based questions. And value-based questions are questions that they would frame based on their values, and so you can tell them what experience you have around those values, and you have to use the STAR approach, and we'll get to that. So other questions are direct questions, and while there are some that you have presentation, or there are some that you do Excel tests, and some of them they might not even tell you, some of them they might tell you. But for the one that I got, they told me that I was going to have a 5 minute presentation. But let's start with the application first. The application for me was quite straightforward. I think one thing that you have to focus on is your supporting information. Every other thing will be about yourself. So I applied on Track Jobs. If you don't know Track Jobs, you can actually check for it. You create an account on Track Jobs and then you start applying. So for the NHS, there are actually a lot of trusts. Apart from trusts, they're actually kind of major organizations. Apart from the NHS, there's the NHS England, there's the NHS Scotland, there's NHS Ambulance. There are actually different arms to it. So if you want to really get roles, you have to branch out. Just don't look at the NHS for your own area. That's what I'll say. So look at different trusts, look at different arms of the NHS. So I kept applying and searching for jobs, and then on Track Jobs I applied, and all I did was to focus on my supporting information. One thing you have to do actually is to focus on the person specification attached to the job role and the job specification. The person specification is telling them the kind of person they are looking for, while the job specification is telling them what they want you to do on the job. Okay, and make sure that when you are applying in your supporting information, you put in the keywords from both the job specification and person specification. Just generally the adverts in general, put in keywords from the advert or your supporting information. Make sure that you do not use the same supporting information or application in general over and over. You always have to tweak it. You always have to ensure that it is aligned with what they want, if you understand what I mean. And that is what will help you. Okay. And do not repeat what you have in all of your applications, like saying that I already have a master's degree. Do not focus on that, because there is a place already on the application where you would have to state all of that. Do you understand? So that's what I think helped me during the application process. And that thing is to make sure that you list out all the experiences that you have that aligns with that role, and make sure that it is well detailed, well arranged, and easily understood, and then focus on your supporting information, and that will help you. So I think that's actually one thing that helped me during my application. How about you, Glory?
So I would say what helped me during my application, like I said, I was not really paying so much attention when I was applying, but I was still intentional about my application. So number one thing, like she mentioned, the supporting information. Oh, and before I go into the supporting information, don't feel, I mean, for somebody listening to this, you might have been applying for jobs and then you're just like, oh, I know the way it goes, like I'll just put in everything, but make sure you read what they're asking for. For example, if they say put in your references from the most recent employer, don't put in
the other way
the
around.
last one. Like don't put it in the other way around. Do you get, like make sure you read before you, don't just brush through like this is another application, let me just do it. Be as intentional as you can whenever you are feeling it. Don't make mistakes. Don't let them, it should not be they'll get to a point, maybe they get to a point that they ask you, have you ever been a criminal, and then you mistakenly put yes because you're not paying attention, then you're shooting yourself in the leg. So be as intentional as possible and make sure you read what they're asking for. Read and be intentional. Number two, like she said, the supporting information is very important. So she has already explained everything. I really don't have much to add about the supporting information. Make sure you follow the job specification and the person specification, and you'll be okay. You've got this. It's not really that difficult.
Make sure you include keywords as well that was included in the advert or in just the general application, and there will be attachments as well. That's what I always say. Download all the attachments, read about the trust, read about the job, read about the person you're looking for, and make sure that you align your application in that format so that you are even more eligible to be called for the interview. Okay, so that's what majorly helped me. So the application process for me was generally smooth because I follow everything I've told you. But the thing is, you now have to wait for whether they'll call you for an interview. Just leave that to God and hope and see. And then we'll move on now to what the interview was like. Do you want to go first?
Okay, so I would say one of the things that, well, for everything we do, we cannot exclude that it's the grace of God, right? So it's not about our efforts many times. It's not about how much effort you put in, like if that is what God wants for you, right? Absolutely. Okay, so now to the practical aspect. So my application, like we already spoke about the application, right? And they would receive a lot of applications, a lot. So your application has to stand out. Even you are filling the supporting information and everything, they would tell you that put in something that makes you stand out, maybe strength or anything that makes you stand out. So don't omit that. Don't say nothing. Like they can put a place like, do you have any other information you want to add, right? So maybe like strengths or weakness, or not weakness. I mean, they'll just tell you that if you had any other information that I think will make you stand out. Don't ignore those little things. Think of something that you think would help you in the role, that you think they would read and be like, okay, this person is good for us, right? So now I want to talk about my interview. So number one, in my Excel exam that I wrote, not only did they test my knowledge, they tested accuracy. So as much as I was nervous and I was under pressure, I was able to write the test accurately, because let me tell you what I'm talking about. So they put in a figure that it would have been easy for you to not notice that something was missing. So but I noticed it.
Okay.
Right, and I was able to put it there that, oh, I noticed that this is not there. That is just a summary. So they're not only testing. So don't just go like with, oh, I just need to get this done. Oh, this is simple. This is VLOOKUP. I'll just do VLOOKUP. I'll just do it and rush out of there.
You have to be really patient.
Yes, be patient. Look for it. Like they know you know VLOOKUP, but there's something they're trying to test aside that. So I know that I've done more than one NHS, because after getting the NHS, the first NHS job I got, I applied for other NHS jobs. So I know that one thing, and I've done more than one Excel test for NHS jobs. So I know that they usually test accuracy aside your knowledge. So don't forget that. Be very careful. And then to the one-on-one part where I had the one-on-one interview with the managers and all that, I was very nervous. And there was a time they told me that I was talking too fast. I didn't know I was nervous. Like, they could sense that I was nervous. But I'd say that I prepared for the interview such that even though I had no experience of NHS interview, but I read about the trust, I memorized their values.
Absolutely.
Like, memorize the values. It's not that hard.
Important. Really.
If I sing it as a song, or just like try to make it like the first letters, put something together, acronym, anything. Memorize. If they don't ask you, chip it in somewhere so that they would know that you know it. So I think they kind of set a trap for me, right? So let me tell you the story. Because the person interviewing me was like, what's this, our NHS? Even I don't even know it. So they're trying to make it seem like it's okay if you don't know it. Just what do you know? And I listed everything. So I felt like that was a trap, right? But I already memorized it. So I just listed everything. So yes, make sure you let them know that you know what they're about. Say something to make them know that this is what I really want to do. I know the value of working with the NHS. I know the value of working with you, and this is why I want to work with you. So display a little bit of passion. Show that you want it. Show them that you really want this job and you have done your part in researching about them. And then my interviews, I've had interviews that were very skill based. So also be prepared for that. So they ask you, what do you know about this? What do you know? What is accruals? What is prepayment? Cite examples. And I've attended interviews where they've asked me this particular question. If you are going into a finance role, this particular question,
always prepare for it.
Accruals,
prepayment, and deferred income.
Budget.
Budget.
Prepare for it if you are going for a finance interview. So they would ask you. So make sure you read through the job description very well. There would be some words that would stand out. So we are talking from our knowledge of finance because we are finance specialists. So I don't know about IT and all that. So it probably applies to them as well. But look for words that stand out.
Keywords,
because if they're going to ask you questions about your skills, those keywords they would ask you. So they'll ask you like, oh, what do you know about this? What do you know about that? And please try to cite an example of where you have tried to apply that knowledge before. Maybe you're talking about accruals. To explain what accruals is, and cite an example of accruals and how it should be treated in the statement of financial position. They would know you really know what you're talking about. So just wow them. Wow them and pray for God's grace.
God's grace is really important. Thank you so much, Glory. So I'm not going to repeat what Glory has said. I will say other distinct things so that we do not spend so much time here. So I'll start from you reading all of the attachment, just like we said for the application. But there's one thing that you need to focus on. There's some parts of the advert that will say this skill is essential, this one is desirable. They'll say some is really, really important, some is not. And they'll tell you what they'll be testing or where they'll be testing what they are testing. So some of them can say
application or interview.
Exactly.
A stands for application and I stands for interview.
And they can say both.
So if it is A/I, that means that they are asking you to apply that knowledge, show them that knowledge in application, and also they test that knowledge in interview.
So you have to prepare for it. So let me give you an example so it doesn't look like we're talking vaguely. So for example, they can say they're looking for someone that has Excel experience, or that has budgeting experience, or that has accounting experience, and they say they'll test this in the application. So most probably they might not really ask you a question around that. It might just be that in your application they want to see that you have maybe a BSc in accounting, or you have an experience there. But if they say interview or application and interview, then you have to be really focused on it while preparing for your interview. So that's one thing you should know. So always read all the attachments. It might not be in the person specification or the job specification. It might be in different attachments. So just kind of download all of the attachments and prepare for it. Another thing that she mentioned, but I want to add to it, that you should prepare for the interview like you want to write an exam. When I'm preparing, I usually take a note and write. Another important thing is the values. Do not ignore the values. They might not ask you, and that's the thing. There's some interviews that I've entered, and some of them would ask me to tell them about myself. While there's some, like making an entry, they can ask you, what is accrual? You're like, let me count.
Yes. Sometimes you just come, they'll tell me why you're a good fit for this role.
I'm like,
why do you want to work with the NHS? Like, see, this question, why do you want to work with the NHS, it's very important.
I'm just happy that we are getting all the
that's spilling all the tea.
Yeah, that's feeling it. So please take notes. So God, what was I saying?
I'm talking about like specific questions. Why do you want to work with the NHS?
So some of them, they won't even prepare you at all. They will ask you. What was one that I didn't even prepare for so much about the trust, because I was like, I've done an interview in that trust before, and what they asked me was just straight and about value-based question. When I got there, they were saying, tell us, what do you know about this trust? I was like, I was so blown off course, and I had to just gather myself together and say the few things that I knew about the trust. So another thing you should really prepare for is learning about the trust, whether or not they're going to ask you. So you learn about the services that they prefer, the cities or areas that they cater for, and all of that. And just talk about, maybe some of them will tell you how many patients that they attend to every year, and some of them will tell you how many staff they have.
And also depending on the role you're applying for, you might need to check the financial statements.
Oh, really? I'm hearing that for the first time.
Yeah, if you're applying for, maybe like you're applying for a management accounting position, you might need to check the financial statements, so you would know how they are doing. Because you can't, if they say, what do you know about us, you want to stand out. You don't want to say the same thing everybody would say. So if you say that, okay, these are your values, every other person probably going to say the values. But if they say that, what do you think is special about us, or something about us? Tell me more about us.
You can refer
that. Okay, from your financial statements, I see that these are your sources of revenue. I see that your financial statements last year, this, right? That would also help you talking from a finance perspective.
Yeah, so you can see that you actually have to prepare really well for this interview. Don't take it like it's not just interview. You have, because every trust is different.
It's different.
So let's go back to the values. I was talking about values. Every trust, apart from the general NHS values, every trust will have their own values that you have to check.
Mission, vision.
Absolutely. So one thing I do is to learn or to put the different values. And so there was a time I was confused that how come I just used to see different values. I already know some. There is this acronym I have for PROUD: patient first, respectful and honest, openness
and responsibility, compassion, dignity,
unfailingly kind, and
the one for NHS Scotland is different from the one for NHS England.
There is one I know that there are 6 C's: care, compassion, competence, you get courage. So
my head is filled with all sorts
of things. So just know that there are different trusts for different. Some of them will just be 3: openness, kindness, and patient. Most of them usually patient focus, how to serve their patients.
Yes, patient first.
Yes, patient first. Just make sure that you know the trust, and if a particular interview states that it's going to be value-based is a totally different kind of interview on its own. You have to use the STAR approach. And I recently learned that it's not just STAR, there's the L after the STAR.
The lesson you learned.
Learning, absolutely. So before, I just used to use STAR. Some people don't even know the meaning of STAR, so I'm going to just elaborate on that. That's the situation, task, action, result, and then the L is learning. There are actually scores attached to each of them. So if you just mention the situation and you just mention the task, you don't tell them what action you carried out, you don't tell them the result, you don't tell them what you learned, you're going to be like reducing your marks. For example, they can tell you that, tell us about a time when you were under pressure to complete a task and how you were able to go about that situation. So you have to tell them about the situation. It was in my previous organization, or it was in my current organization, where I had to perform the month-end reconciliation. What was the task? You go to what you were supposed to do, tell them the action, tell them the result, and tell them what you learned. Tell them what you learned based on the pressure, because they're asking about pressure. You can actually relate that story to different areas, but relate it to the exact question that they asked you. Okay, so that's another thing. That's just value based. And some of them won't even ask you value based. They will ask you direct questions. Glory has talked about that, just like all of the things you have to learn that are technical based on your experience, based on what they want you to know. You have to answer them directly. So I think another thing that helps during the interview as well is to be really confident. Let me not even pretend that I'm always confident during my interviews. There are times that I'm really nervous, and there are times that I am not able to understand the question immediately. Sometimes I tell them to repeat it so that they can just paraphrase, and you can say something like, please, can you rephrase that, so that you get more understanding and even more time to think about the answers. And then from there, you would even be more confident to answer. And another thing is, you can tell them to skip that you come back to it. So it's fine. If you tell them that, can we proceed? I'll come back to that. It's also fine. That's if you need more time to think. But one thing you should still try to do is to try to, elaborate or expatiate and explain what they really want to hear. Try to be confident, and just know that one thing about doing an interview, or one thing that helps me, is that I usually consider it as a chat. I just look at it and say, it's just a chat, and it's going to happen between 30 to 45 minutes to 1 hour, and it's going to be over. Okay, so just try to look at it as like you're having a conversation with your friend. It makes it really easy, and try to remind yourself that it's a process that you must pass through. If you do not pass through it, you can't get the job. So getting scared is not really going to help you. Another thing that helps me again is reminding myself that the people that are interviewing me, they're not after me failing, but I have to just try my best to calm my nerves and answer the questions right.
Yeah, and I think if you actually prepare well, it would help you. So even if you are nervous, the more you speak,
you get better.
You get more confident because you're actually prepared. So make sure you prepare your scenario questions. I mean, the star lesson questions before you go. So based on the things they're asking for example, they need somebody that has good communication skills. Prepare questions. Prepare scenarios. Don't go there thinking you come up with the story or anything. Prepare something before you go and rehearse it. Because if not, you might just get nervous and start stuttering and looking like you don't know what you're doing. So prepare questions. And another thing they would usually ask is how you work well in a team, because most times, depending on your role, but from what I know, they would usually need somebody that can work well in a team. So prepare to answer questions. If they're going to ask you questions like that, prepare to answer questions on how you work well in a team, how you work with your team members. So rehearse and be well prepared. It will help a lot in building your confidence.
A few more things on the interview before we go to the next one. I think we spent so much time on it. So one thing would be, for my role, I mentioned initially that I was told I would be presenting. So after I got my interview call, I got the email telling me that before your interview, you have to present for 5 minutes about this topic. Make sure that you print out the PowerPoint presentation. That's what they said. So I think they said 2 copies. I really can't remember. But what I did was I printed 3 because I wanted to have one for myself. And before I go there, I want you to know that you can actually have some written notes about your thoughts, even if it's not for your presentation, just like some key points if you want to. It's not compulsory, but I know that it's okay. And when you get there, you can just say, I have this note just because I want to align my thoughts and just refer back to it. And you don't actually have to use it, but if you need it, it's not a crime to go with notes. Even if you have virtual interviews, you can have some sticky notes with notes to guide you. And going back to my presentation, there are some interviews like that they will tell you that you have a presentation, while there are some that they might not tell you. Or maybe for presentation, they will tell you, but Excel, they necessarily will not tell you. I've gone into an interview, and when I finished my interview, they told me that, okay, now we're going to open an Excel and just test your experiences on that. So for the presentation, I was told, I went in with presentation slides. I gave them printed. I had 2 people on the panel, and I had one to myself just to look at the points, right? And then I was presenting, just explaining what that topic was about based on the slides. And it was for 5 minutes before I went to the interview. And that was actually the role that I got. Okay. So it's actually possible to have diverse ways that you'll be tested in your interview. Another final thing I want to mention is that you should prepare for questions at the end of the interview. They will always ask you, always, do you have any questions for us? Do you have that experience?
Of course. There is no interview I've been to that
None.
I was not.
So always prepare. Always prepare. One major question, if I'm going to just be liberal and share with you, is that I want to know how my first few months will be on the road, assuming that I joined the team, or assuming that I made this interview. And they will share with you, okay, in the first 3 months, you're just going to be learning about different processes. You don't have to share it the way I just did. You can flesh it up and ask them the question. But do not say no. Do not say you do not have any questions. It makes you look unserious. So prepare for about 1 to 2 to 3 questions that you can ask them, and that one even makes you look like now I am the interviewer. You guys answer my question and be my interviewee. So
you can go personal and ask them about their own experience in the role so far, their own experience in the company. What do they love most about working in the company? Or maybe based on if you really listen, because they will tell you about the organization, they will tell you about the role, they will tell you about how long they've been in the role and some other things. So you can draw out questions from that. But to be safe, please prepare your own questions before you go in for the interview. It would help a lot.
Absolutely. So that ends this part on the interview questions.
So if you have specific questions you would like to ask, please feel free to drop it in the comments. And Veronica would be happy to answer you, since this is actually on it. I'm just a guest here, so please ask her all your questions.
Do you want to go, or should go? We should just interswitch it.
Well, I would say the first thing coming to mind now, if I'm going to advise anyone, is like I said when you started, everyone's journey
is different,
peculiar, right? Don't beat yourself up because somebody got it and you didn't get it. Look at it. Veronica was applying for a long time. And I didn't even know when I applied. I mistakenly applied and got into NHS by mistake. Right? And she had up to 200 applications. Right? So everyone's journey different. But if you know you want something, go for it and don't get tired. Keep at it, guys. Don't give up.
You'll get it. I promise you.
One rejection does not define who you are. In fact, 1,000 rejections.
Especially to immigrants, guys. It's hard. I won't even lie to you because most people do not like hearing me use the word tough, hard. I don't want to sugarcoat it, but trust me, if you keep at it, it's very possible.
It is possible. So don't give up. Stop counting. Just keep doing it. Don't stop, please. Don't stop. So yeah, that's what I would say. Your journey is peculiar. Own your journey. Don't compare yourself with anybody. Don't compare your journey with anybody's journey. Own it and just don't give up, right? And don't be afraid to start small. Don't think it's small. Don't be afraid to start small. While you are pursuing what you want, you can start from somewhere.
Absolutely.
Right? Because for me, my first job in the NHS was based on the contracts I said I did before I got into the NHS. What I did on the contracts was very similar to what this role was about. So it really helped me a lot. When I was answering the interview questions, I just kept referring to what I did in that role. So it really helped me, right? So don't be afraid to start from somewhere. If you've not gotten the NHS job you want to get, do something else while you're waiting, right? And continue to upskill. Continue to build yourself, increase your knowledge and your skills, because you'll get it one day, right?
So my own advice would be to start early, and like I've mentioned earlier as well, to widen your tentacles. Don't just stay on one particular trust or one particular city or one particular NHS branch. There are a lot of branches under the NHS. Like I didn't even know until I started really looking into all of it. There's the ambulance service. You know, the way health is, there's a whole lot of branches under the NHS. So make sure that you do not just look into one aspect of it. Try to research, check on their websites. If you've come across a particular one, NHS Scotland, just go to NHS Scotland. Apart from the general NHS website, they would have their own individual website, and they will have their careers page as well. So just try to widen your tentacles and also start early, so that all of the rejections would have come and then you have enough time. I'm sure you understand what I mean. You have enough time to get what you want or to settle into the job at the right time. Okay?
And no experience is a waste, right? Don't regret traveling miles for an interview.
Glory, I don't even want to tell you the story of I traveled for the interviews were back to back. And I was like, at least I will get one. I'm like, let me just try. I will go for the two. You know, the stress. I booked train. I traveled.
The money, the time,
I had to pay for a place to stay. Guys, the two of them, I got rejected.
Sometimes you think you've put in your best and you not understand why. I'm just trying to say that it's not a walk in the park.
Absolutely.
It's not easy. Like, it's not the easiest thing
to do for you. You should keep at it.
Yes, keep at it. What you're facing in the journey of your application is not peculiar to you. No, everyone, like different people have faced it at one point or the other. So don't feel like your enemies are after you. Like this is the end of the world for you. Just keep at it, please. Please, you get it. You get there, right? Don't stop. And like she says, widen your
net.
Yes. Spread your options. Just go around NHS Scotland, NHS England, everywhere. Just go. Go and apply.
So guys, I think this brings us to the end, and I want to believe that you would have picked something from everything, because we talked in different aspects and areas. We didn't even know that we would talk this much. What we prepared for was just a little of it, and when we started talking, we were just remembering different
things. I tell you, if we had the opportunity, we would even say more, because I mean, it's been a journey, to be honest. It's been a journey. So but
if you have any more questions, please drop it in the comment section. We'll know how to answer them subsequently. Probably I'll just reply to you, or if need be, I will do a new video, or let's just see how it goes based on the number of questions that I receive. But let me assure you that if you can pick up anything that we've spoken about here and you're able to apply it, trust me, that will just be the thing that will make your application better. Because like I said, I've applied to a lot of applications, and when I started as a novice, and I got better. I kept getting better. I kept getting better. And that's why I really love to come on here to share my story most times, so that most people won't have to go through what I've gone through, or most people will have the resources they need to make the application better. I also had to search for resources that would help me to get better, but it was not necessarily on YouTube, because I really do not think that there are so many resources on YouTube about personal stories on the NHS, especially in the finance role.
Maybe on healthcare, but other roles, NHS roles.
So hopefully this video will be able to answer some of your questions if you're in the finance role. Just know that the NHS is not limited to the healthcare. There are a whole lot. If you're watching this and you have something in mind, it's very possible that the NHS has that role. So go and check. Okay, so thank you so much for watching till this end. I really appreciate it. I wish we could continue, but because of time, we'll have to stop here today. But I believe that this video would bless you, would help you, would allow you to be more focused
and encourage you,
to keep at it and to get better at your application. Do not forget to subscribe. Do not forget to share. Even if you think this video is not beneficial to you, be sure to share to people that would need it. Be sure to subscribe and be sure to give us a thumbs up, so that more people comment as well. And I really appreciate that. Thank you, Glory, for joining. I really appreciate. Thank you for always coming.
You're welcome.
We hope to see you soon on the channel.
I hope to be back.
But thank you so much once again, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye. Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye.